Today on TOKKANTE we're talking about this object right behind me. I mean this, not the cat. Qu'est-ce que c'est, I hear you say. What the hell is this? Well, about 1 week ago I had no idea this object from 1968 even existed. So let's find out. Hi everyone and welcome, I'm Ben. So the other night I was on my phone on an app that we have here called Carousel to sell pre-owned goods, and I was looking at vintage watches and also for a cool desk clock that I wanted for my new office. And then I came across this one. So at first what caught my eye is, the design and the color. I thought, wow, that is so retro cool and it screams 70s. So I looked at the photos and I saw, the brand name on it that says Bush. I had never heard of it, but it was made in Italy, and Italy is famous for good design. But then what also interested me is the marking on the dial of the clock itself that said product of the rank organization. And I thought, there must be a good story behind that. So I started researching the clock and I found out a few things. So first, the Bush radio company was started in the UK in 1932, and it was actually the biggest or the largest manufacturer of early radios in the 30s in the UK. So this goes back way back. Then the Rank organization, I found out, was started in 1937 by someone called Arthur Rank, and it was a film company at first that eventually became the largest and most vertically integrated film conglomerate in the UK, owning everything from production facilities and cinema lines and distribution rights and making big films at the time, and also eventually they got into the production manufacturing of television sets and also radios and then copiers and a whole bunch of other things. So it was huge apparently, and I thought the Rank organization, that name only sounded very shady, it sounded very secretive, it reminded me of like James Bond's Spectre organization or something. So I thought that's interesting already. So in 1949, actually the Rank organization acquired Bush Radio Company to manufacture clocks for them. And this particular one dates back from 1968 when Bush commissioned this clock from an Italian company called Europhone. That is also a manufacturer based in Italy that was making products under their own label, Europhone, but also white label for other brands. So this one was designed by someone called Adriano Rampoldi, who apparently was, a famous designer back then and who created very 70s looking design like this that survive until today and that quite sought after apparently. So that's why the whole story of this was interesting to me, because it was made in Italy by Europhone, designed by Adriano Rampoldi, but it was made for Bush, and Bush actually provided those clocks to the Rank organization. Hence, the double branding on it, Bush and Rank organization, and made in Italy. So I thought that was very interesting. Now eventually, the Bush name kind of stopped being used in the 1980s when the Rank organization was getting rid of some of their businesses. And in 2000, I think before that, sometime between the 80s and the 2000, the name was acquired by the Alba Group, and they kind of relaunched the brand, but manufacturing basically cheap electronics made in China and in Turkey. So it was kind of like a department store label. But then in 2008, the Alba Group itself was acquired by Home Retail Group. So for those of you who are based in the UK, you might be familiar with the Home Retail Group. And now they've relaunched the Bush name to basically reissue some of their classic radio designs from the 50s and the 60s. So the name lives on today. And as for the Rank organization, eventually was renamed under the Rank Group. But then, they ran into difficulties with film production, things changed, and it was kind of a very old-fashioned kind of conglomerate. And eventually, little by little, they got rid of some of their businesses up until 2005, when they sold off their DVD distribution right, and the Rank Group finally disappeared. So after doing all this research, I just had to get it. But what did I get exactly? So this is both a radio and a clock. So the radio is a medium wave and long wave radio with all the different BBC, even the Welsh BBC radio stations preset on the dial. But it's not linked to the clock. So this is 1968 we're talking about. It's not as sophisticated. This is not an alarm radio that will wake you up and you can preset the alarm time. No, no, no. They are separate. You have the radio and then you have the clock. So the radio, doesn't work anymore, I'm guessing. I don't care, to be honest. This is not what I bought it for. But then the clock is interesting because the clock is what they call an electronic clock or a transistor clock, but not a quartz. So it's not as accurate as a quartz. And I read that those are accurate to about 5 seconds a day. So who knows, maybe we could get it meta certified still. Okay, I'm kidding, but the movement is interesting. It's what is called an electromechanical movement. So it's neither mechanical nor quartz, it's that sweet spot in between. So apparently it works with transistors and capacitors and resistors, and I have no idea how it works, so don't ask me to explain it to you, but it's basically an electronic circuit, but has also mechanical parts. It has 2 winding discs, and it will create some kind of a magnetic pulse that will make the hands move. And because this is not a quartz, the hands actually do not tick. They will sweep, so they sweep like a mechanical movement. So this is this sweet spot in 1968, just before the first commercially available quartz watch, released by Seiko in December 1969, the Seiko Astron. That changed basically everything. So I know that quartz were available before the Seiko Astron, but usually in much bigger kind of clocks. I read in maybe train station or that like huge clocks. But they were not available yet in at home for like domestic appliances. So I think this one represents the idea of the future back then, when this was not a mechanical clock anymore, and this was probably like new technology, an electronic clock. But I'm guessing these only existed probably for a very short period of time, probably just a few years, because eventually all this type of clock would move to quartz. So I think this is kind of a snapshot back to the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, where people had this idea of what the future was like. It reminds me of those old James Bond movie when you see the type of furnitures and items that they had in their homes, maybe a Le Corbusier chair or this type of things, like a lot of orange and a lot of plastic, and at that time it was new and it was cool and it was futuristic. So I thought that was really cool. So now, when I opened the compartment and I saw this type of batteries, so those are 4.5 volts lantern, what we call lantern batteries, and there are 2 of those in it. And so I thought this is what I need to get the clock running, and these are very difficult to find in Hong Kong. I actually could not find any. I went to 7 different stores, and even they look at me like, what is this? They had never seen this before. And I found some online in the US on Amazon or eBay, but they're quite expensive. And eventually I found some on amazon.co.uk, and I ordered 2 of them. But after taking another look at the clock inside the compartment, and I saw that on the inside there was actually a sticker saying that we need 2 different kinds of batteries, one for the radio and one for the clock. So those are actually for the radio. For the clock, I only need 1 battery, which should be a lot easier to find, but it's quite corroded inside, so I'm gonna get the battery, I'm gonna try to get it to run. There is no guarantee that it's going to run. I hope it's going to, because that would be very cool. But if not, anyway, it'll be a very cool item to display in my office, and I'm sure it'll be a conversation starter. So if you wanted to get one of those, I looked around and I see a very wide range of prices depending on whether it's fully functioning, if the radio is still working, or the clock, or not at all. I've seen them anywhere from about $100 to I saw some at 240 euros, and I even saw one that's fully working at 350 pounds. So this seller was selling that clock, radio clock, for about $100, and it had been on sale for a while, and I just made a lowball offer of $40, and eventually she just accepted, because I think she just wanted to get rid of it, and she told me that she has a lot of items from the 50s and the 60s. She's moving, and then she needs to get rid of a lot of things. So I'm very happy I got this. I don't know if it's gonna work, but all the same, I will update you if I can get the clock to run again. So that's it for today. You know, something a little different, something quirky, something retro cool, something maybe a little kitsch, but I love it. I'm gonna put this in my office, hopefully get it to work. If not, it'll be a conversation starter. Had you seen a radio clock from Bush, maybe in your parents' or grandparents' house before? I had never heard of it. So, you know, ask yourself what makes you tick, subscribe for more, please click, share, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.